Your soulmate opened up to their father about you for the first time. Tears of joy filled his eyes. What happened next touched everyone's heart. My beloved child. Tonight, a quiet conversation took place behind a closed door, and for the very first time, your soulmate found the courage to tell their father everything about you. Not just your name. Not just a passing story. They spoke about the dreams they had been hiding, the memories they kept replaying, and the strange feeling that no matter how much time passed, their heart always found its way back to you. But something unexpected happened before they could finish. Their father slowly lowered his head, and tears quietly filled his eyes. Why would a father react that way to someone he had never even met? What truth did he suddenly recognize? Don't skip, because the answer isn't what anyone in that room expected. As the silence stretched longer, your soulmate became nervous, wondering if they had made a terrible mistake by opening their heart. Then their father whispered a sentence so gentle, yet so powerful, that it changed the entire atmosphere. I've been waiting for you to speak these words. But what could he possibly have meant? And why did those simple words make your soulmate's hands begin to tremble? For several long moments, neither of them spoke. The room felt heavy with emotion, as though years of unspoken thoughts had finally found their way into the light. Their father admitted that he had noticed something changing long before this conversation ever happened. He had seen the quiet smiles that appeared for no obvious reason, the distracted moments during family dinners, and the way your soulmate's eyes softened whenever your future was mentioned. He confessed that he had never asked questions because he believed every heart has its own perfect moment to reveal the truth. Then he looked directly into your soulmate's eyes and asked one question that seemed almost impossible to answer. When you imagine your happiest life, is that person standing beside you? The response came without hesitation. It was immediate. It was certain. And that certainty caused another wave of tears neither of them could hide. Stay till the end, because an even more touching moment was only seconds away. Just when your soulmate believed the emotional conversation was coming to an end, their father quietly stood up and disappeared into another room without saying a word. Confusion filled the air. Had something gone wrong? Was there another truth still waiting to be uncovered? After what felt like forever, he returned carrying an old, carefully protected box that looked as though it had been untouched for many years. Inside were letters, faded photographs, and a small keepsake that held a story your soulmate had never heard before. With trembling hands, he explained that every generation in their family had faced one defining moment, the moment they finally trusted love instead of fear. Looking at your soulmate with unmistakable pride, he said this conversation reminded him of his own journey decades ago, when one brave decision changed everything. But before he could reveal the final piece of that unforgettable story, someone unexpected arrived at the front door, and the expression on their father's face changed once again. Something huge is waiting for you. A gentle knock echoed through the house, and every heartbeat in the room seemed to pause at once. Your soulmate exchanged a nervous glance with their father before the door slowly opened. Standing there was someone neither of them had expected to see that evening, carrying nothing more than a warm smile and a familiar envelope. No words came at first. The silence itself felt meaningful, as if everyone understood they had stepped into a moment that had been waiting to happen for years. Their father accepted the envelope with careful hands, looked at the name written across the front, and quietly smiled through fresh tears. "I wondered if this day would ever come," he whispered. Your soulmate stared in disbelief. How could this visitor possibly know anything about the conversation that had just unfolded behind those closed doors? Stay with this story, because the answer revealed a connection far deeper than coincidence. The envelope contained a handwritten letter that had never been opened. It had been kept safe for a very long time, waiting for the right moment. As their father unfolded the delicate pages, he explained that the letter had been written by someone who believed real love should never be rushed or forced. Instead, it should arrive when two hearts were finally brave enough to stop hiding. Every sentence seemed to describe exactly what your soulmate had been feeling but had never found the courage to say aloud. The visitor quietly admitted they had promised to deliver it only when they saw genuine hope shining in your soulmate's eyes. That hope had finally appeared tonight. Your soulmate could barely hold back their emotions. They realized this wasn't simply about a relationship anymore. It was about discovering that faith and love had been growing around them all along, even when they couldn't see it. Don't skip, because one sentence near the end of that letter changed everything once again. As the final lines were read aloud, their father gently folded the letter and placed it back inside the envelope with extraordinary care. He turned toward your soulmate, rested a reassuring hand on their shoulder, and spoke with complete certainty. If someone brings this much peace to your heart before they even walk through this door, imagine the joy they'll bring when they finally stand beside you. Those words broke the last walls your soulmate had built around their emotions. Tears flowed freely, but this time they weren't tears of fear, they were tears of relief. For the first time, they believed their feelings no longer had to remain hidden. Just as they gathered the courage to make an important decision, a phone on the nearby table suddenly lit up with an unexpected message. The sender's name made everyone freeze, because it was the one person they had secretly been hoping would reach out at exactly this moment. The room fell completely silent as every eye turned toward the glowing screen. Your soulmate hesitated, almost afraid to touch the phone, because some messages have the power to change a person's entire future. Their father noticed the uncertainty and gently nodded, silently encouraging them to find out what destiny had placed before them. With a deep breath, your soulmate unlocked the screen. The message was unexpectedly simple, yet every word carried enormous weight. It spoke of honesty, timing, and the importance of never letting fear decide the future. No names were mentioned, but somehow it felt deeply personal, as though it had been written for this exact night. Their father smiled softly and said, "Sometimes life doesn't shout. Sometimes it whispers, and only those who are ready can hear it." What did that message truly mean? And why did it arrive within minutes of the most emotional conversation they had ever shared? Stay till the end, because another unforgettable moment was already beginning. Without saying another word, their father walked toward a nearby bookshelf and reached for an old family photo album. He carefully opened it to a page your soulmate had never paid much attention to before. There was a photograph of him as a young man, smiling beside someone who had once changed his life forever. Looking at the picture, he admitted that there had been a time when fear almost convinced him to walk away from the person who meant everything to him. "I nearly lost the greatest blessing of my life because I waited for the perfect moment," he confessed. The perfect moment never comes. Courage creates it. Your soulmate listened with tear-filled eyes, realizing that this wasn't just a story from the past, it was gentle guidance for the future. Their father wasn't telling them what decision to make. He was reminding them that love grows stronger when truth is finally spoken. Something huge is waiting for you, because the next choice would reveal just how much this conversation had changed your soulmate's heart. As the evening drew closer to its end, your soulmate stepped outside for a quiet moment beneath the open sky. The air felt different now, lighter somehow, as though a burden they had carried for so long had finally disappeared. Behind them, the front door slowly opened again, and their father walked out holding a warm cup of tea. They stood together in peaceful silence until he finally broke it with one heartfelt promise. Whoever brings this kind of hope into your life will always be welcomed here. Those words settled deeply into your soulmate's heart, replacing every lingering doubt with quiet confidence. They looked down at the phone once more, their fingers hovering over the screen, ready to send a message they had imagined countless times but never dared to write. Just before they pressed send, another notification appeared, one that revealed someone else had already taken the first courageous step, and what it contained would leave your soulmate completely speechless. A quiet smile crossed your soulmate's face, then disappeared just as quickly as it came. The new notification wasn't random. It wasn't a reminder or an advertisement. It was a heartfelt message that seemed to arrive at the exact second courage finally outweighed fear. Their hands trembled as they opened it, expecting only a few simple words. Instead, they found a sincere note about second chances, honest conversations, and the importance of never letting meaningful connections fade into silence. It felt as though the universe itself had perfectly aligned the timing. Their father noticed the tears returning and asked softly, "Does this message remind you of someone?" Your soulmate couldn't answer right away. They simply nodded, because some emotions are too deep for words. Don't skip, because what happened in the next few moments transformed hope into something much more real. Their father gently placed a reassuring hand on their shoulder and shared one final piece of wisdom that had stayed with him throughout his own life. Real love isn't measured by how quickly two people meet, he said. It's measured by how bravely they choose each other when the opportunity finally arrives. Those words settled deep within your soulmate's heart. For years, uncertainty had whispered that waiting was safer than risking disappointment. But tonight, every fear seemed smaller than the possibility of happiness. They finally understood why their father had cried earlier. Those tears weren't born from sadness at all. They came from witnessing someone he loved finally become brave enough to stop hiding behind doubt. Watching that transformation reminded him of the day his own life changed forever. Stay till the end, because the next decision would bring an emotional surprise no one in the family could have predicted. With renewed confidence, your soulmate slowly began typing the message they had postponed countless times. Every sentence came straight from the heart, honest, gentle, and free of pretense. Before pressing send, they looked toward their father one last time. He smiled without saying a word, yet that smile carried all the reassurance they needed. The message was finally sent. For a brief moment, the world seemed perfectly still. Then, almost instantly, 3 little dots appeared on the screen, showing that a reply was already being written. Your soulmate's heartbeat quickened as they realized someone on the other side had been waiting too. But when the response finally appeared, it wasn't just a reply either of them had ever imagined. The reply appeared one line at a time, and with every new sentence, your soulmate's eyes filled with even more emotion. There were no dramatic declarations, no impossible promises, only quiet honesty. The message spoke about admiration that had been growing in silence, about moments when words almost escaped but never quite did, and about the hope that one day everything hidden could finally be spoken face to face. Your soulmate read it twice, then a third time, just to be certain it was real. Their father watched from a distance, smiling as though he already understood exactly what those words meant. "A heart that speaks with honesty is never too late," he said softly. Your soulmate looked up, overwhelmed by a feeling they hadn't experienced in a very long time. For the first time, the future no longer felt uncertain. It felt possible. But before the night could settle into peace, another unexpected idea entered their father's mind, one that would soon touch far more lives than anyone imagined. Instead of celebrating immediately, their father quietly suggested something surprising. "Before you rush toward tomorrow," he said, "let today become a memory you'll never regret." He encouraged your soulmate to write down every feeling they had experienced that evening. The fear before opening up, the relief after telling the truth, and the hope that had replaced years of hesitation. At first, your soulmate wondered why this mattered so much. Then their father explained that memories fade, but written words remain faithful. One day, he believed, those pages would remind them that courage didn't arrive all at once. It arrived one honest conversation at a time. As the journal slowly filled with heartfelt reflections, even the smallest details seemed precious. The tears, the smiles, the trembling voice, the unexpected message, they all became part of a story worth remembering. Stay till the end, because the next morning would begin with a surprise that no one in the family saw coming. The first rays of sunlight had barely reached the windows when the sound of laughter echoed through the house. It wasn't loud or overwhelming. It was warm, genuine, and filled with quiet excitement. Your soulmate stepped into the living room to find their father already awake, carefully preparing for something special. A neatly folded outfit rested on the chair, and beside it lay a handwritten note. It contained only a few simple words: "Today, don't carry fear. Carry hope." Your soulmate smiled through happy tears, realizing this was more than encouragement, it was an invitation to begin a brand new chapter. Just as they reached for the note, the phone vibrated once again. This time, the message wasn't from the same person as before. It came from someone whose name had never been mentioned throughout the entire journey. Yet the words they sent revealed they had quietly known about this love story all along, and what they wanted to say would leave everyone completely speechless. The unfamiliar name on the screen immediately caught your soulmate's attention. For a moment, they wondered if the message had been sent by mistake. But as they opened it, every doubt disappeared. The sender introduced themselves as someone who had quietly witnessed pieces of this journey from the very beginning. They explained that they had seen the way conversations always seemed to drift back to you, the way hope returned whenever your name was mentioned, and the way your soulmate never truly gave up, even during moments of silence. Then came the sentence that left everyone speechless: "I promised myself that if this day ever arrived, I would tell you the truth. Your happiness has inspired more people than you'll probably ever know." Your soulmate looked toward their father, unable to believe that so many hearts had been quietly cheering for this moment. Something huge is waiting for you, because the next revelation connected every piece of the story together. Their father gently asked to read the message, and as he reached the final line, another smile spread across his face. "Now I understand why everything happened exactly the way it did," he said. He explained that life's most meaningful moments often seem delayed, not because they're forgotten, but because they need time to grow strong enough to last. He reminded your soulmate of the fear they had carried only the night before, then pointed to the joy now filling the room. The difference wasn't luck. It was courage. One honest conversation had opened the door to another, and each truthful step had drawn people closer instead of pushing them away. Your soulmate suddenly realized that every tear shed that evening had carried away a little more doubt, leaving only gratitude behind. Stay with this story, because the final surprise wasn't waiting somewhere far away, it was already much closer than anyone realized. Just as everyone believed the morning had revealed all its surprises, the doorbell rang once more. This time, no one felt nervous. There was only quiet anticipation. Your soulmate walked to the door, took a deep breath, and slowly turned the handle. Standing there was a familiar face wearing the kind of smile that instantly brings peace to the heart. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Words weren't necessary. The emotions they had both carried for so long were finally visible without being hidden. Behind your soulmate, their father watched with tears of happiness shining in his eyes once again. He had hoped for this moment, but seeing it unfold was even more beautiful than he had imagined. As the two of them took their first step toward each other, one heartfelt question remained unanswered. A question that would determine not only what happened next, but how two families would begin writing a brand new chapter together. A single warm smile said more than either of them could have expressed in 1,000 words. As they stood face to face, the silence wasn't awkward, it was comforting. It was the kind of silence shared by two people who no longer needed to hide what their hearts had been carrying. Your soulmate finally spoke first, not with a rehearsed speech, but with complete honesty. They admitted how many times fear had almost convinced them to stay quiet forever. They confessed that opening up to their father had changed everything, giving them the courage they had been searching for all along. The familiar face listening at the doorway smiled through joyful tears and replied, "I was hoping you would say those words someday." In that instant, every doubt that had once separated them seemed to disappear. Don't skip, because the most touching moment of the entire journey was still waiting just inside the house. Their father quietly stepped forward and welcomed the guest with genuine warmth, as though they had known this meeting would eventually happen. There was no judgment. No hesitation. Only kindness. He invited everyone to sit together, and what followed wasn't a difficult conversation, it was a celebration of honesty. Stories were shared. Laughter slowly replaced nervousness. Even the smallest memories suddenly felt meaningful because they had all led to this very morning. At one point, your soulmate looked around the room and realized something remarkable. The people gathered there weren't focused on the past anymore. They were looking ahead, imagining birthdays, family dinners, shared milestones, and countless ordinary moments that would become extraordinary simply because they would be experienced together. Stay till the end, because one final surprise was about to make this day unforgettable. As the conversation drew to a peaceful close, their father disappeared into the next room one last time before returning with a beautifully wrapped keepsake. He placed it gently into your soulmate's hands and smiled with quiet pride. Inside was the same small family keepsake he had shown the night before, but now it was accompanied by a handwritten note. It read, "Every generation is remembered for one brave decision. This is yours." No one in the room could hold back their tears. Your soulmate understood that this wasn't merely a gift, it was a symbol of trust, acceptance, and a future built on truth instead of fear. Looking around the room, they realized the greatest miracle of the entire journey had never been a dramatic event. It was the simple courage to open one honest conversation, which slowly opened every heart that followed. And from that day forward, whenever anyone asked how this beautiful story began, they would all smile and remember the night one heartfelt conversation with a father changed everything.